Welcome back, folks, to the weekly Monday mailbag video entitled #AskGSM, where you send in your questions from Facebook and Twitter, and I answer them right here. Remember, if you want to send in a question, make sure to like my official Facebook page at GrahamGSMMatthew. Simply drop a comment right on the wall, or tweet me on Twitter with the #AskGSM at WrestleRant. So without further ado, let's get right down to the questions for this week. Jared J. from Facebook asks, if you were starting a wrestling promotion, who would be your ideal three-man announce team? Easy, Jim Ross, William Regal. The third man, it kind of depends if you're talking about present day or all-time commentators, if I can't take people from other promotions. I'm not really sure what you mean by that, so we'll just keep it general here. But if I can take people from other promotions, I guess I would have to go with JBL. I can't really think of anyone else at the moment. Probably somebody better, maybe like a Bobby the Brain Heenan, but if we're talking about present day, then obviously not. But yes, Regal, JR, and JBL. Ross S. asked, what is your opinion on the current state of TNA, and who do you think, and do you think Vince McMahon will buy them? On the current state of TNA, financially they're not doing so well right now. Obviously, the news broke about a week ago that they are currently homeless after March, I think it is, because they're going to the UK in a few weeks. Then they're taping a few shows in Alabama. I think it's this upcoming week for Genesis. They're taping a show in Alabama or somewhere else in the U.S. They're going on the road. And then after Lockdown, or I think they're taping Lockdown from Miami, or it's not official yet. But after they get back from the UK tour, maybe they do one or two shows somewhere, but then after that they're homeless because they can't rent out the Universal Studios any longer. So they got an issue running in there. I don't know. Jeff Jarrett just recently left. AJ Styles recently left. I was looking back at all the people that released, or people that left the company in 2013. Over 20 people left the company in 2013. And these aren't just random jobbers either. These are guys like Hulk Hogan, who should have left, obviously. He left on his own terms. His contract expired. They couldn't afford to pay him any longer, or at least some of the amount of money that they were paying him before. Jeff Jarrett, the freaking founder of the company, left, and AJ Styles, the face of the company, left. So that just kind of goes to show that they're not doing too well right now. I don't know. I don't think Jeff Jarrett's going to be back, because rumor is that he's starting a new wrestling promotion. But AJ Styles is currently signed to TNA, or currently signed to Ring of Honor for the time being, and will be appearing on a few of their shows for the next few months. So that just goes to show that he won't be on the that he won't be in TNA for at least another few months, at the very least. So, yes, I don't think TNA is doing too well right now financially. Creatively, not much better. Magnus, AJ Styles, that main event from a few days ago, I thought was a complete train wreck of a matchup. I wrote an entire rant on it in my TNA Impact Wrestling review that you can check up on my website, Next Door Wrestling, if you want to check that out. But do you think Vince McMahon will buy them? Probably not. I said this during Impact on Thursday via Twitter, but I'll say it again. I think the only reason why why Vince McMahon would purchase TNA would be to purchase their library of content that they can use for the WWE Network. If there was any time in order to do that, it would be right now, that Vince McMahon can have access to all of their footage, all of their media libraries and stuff like that. I think that'd be the only reason why Vince McMahon would ever purchase TNA. Otherwise, he doesn't care. They got a full roster of people. They don't need any more top stars in WWE. They already have a load of top talents and stuff like that in WWE. We don't need any more, in my personal opinion. And for the next wave of talent coming up, they have the WWE Performance Center and WWE NXT. So they really don't need any help in bringing up fresh faces too. So if anything, if they were to buy TNA, a lot of guys would be out of work. I'm just going to say that right now. I think the only people they would have interest in would be maybe Kurt Angle, Sting, and maybe Jeff Hardy. Everyone else would be out of a job, unfortunately. So I don't know why people would want to say that they should be bought out by WWE, if only because more competition, I think, equals a good thing. I know TNA isn't a close second to WWE. It's a distant second. But competition's still competition. I think it's a good place for other people to work. It's just another good wrestling. Why would you want less wrestling? You know, that's just a logical question in my mind every time someone says WWE should buy out TNA. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying I don't want it to happen. You know, because I don't think a lot of people that are in TNA would be brought over to the WWE main roster. That's a whole nother rant for another day. I'll get into that another time. Andre G asks, who do you see as the top 4 baby faces and heels 3 years from now? Very good question. Obviously, a lot could change in 3 years. Right now it's 2014. 3 years ago it's 2011. Back then we had The Miz, John Morrison was on the peak of being a top guy. We had Dolph Ziggler, Edge, who has since retired. So you never really know what can happen in 3 years, but one thing's for sure, John Cena will not be retired 3 years from now, or at least I'm predicting. So John Cena is going to be an obvious top guy. I would go with Roman Reigns and maybe Big E Langston. Like I said in my last video, I think officials are very high on both of them. So I could see both of those guys being breakout main event players definitely 3 years from now. I don't know about Dolph Ziggler, guys like that. Maybe CM Punk. There's rumors going around that he might be retired by that point in time. But I guess CM Punk, I don't think Daniel Bryan's going to be gone, so I'll go with Daniel Bryan. It's really hard to say because a lot can change in 3 years, much less 1 year. I mean, a lot can change from now until January of 2015. So it's really hard to say, but I would say maybe Cena, Punk, Bryan, who else? Langston and Roman Reigns. As far as other baby faces or other fresh faces that might rise up, there's always someone from NXT that could always rise up too, like a Big E Langston, because maybe a year and a half ago he wasn't even on the roster, so you never really know. And maybe I would say maybe Ambrose and maybe Rollins too, because the Shield is full of potential as far as singles competitors go. Zach D asks, so if WWE let go of The Miz, he could have a successful career elsewhere, or could he have a successful career elsewhere? Well, honestly, I don't see WWE releasing The Miz. If anything, The Miz would leave on his own terms, saying, screw this, I don't really want to be here anymore, they're not doing anything with me, I might as well leave. I don't think Miz has that kind of attitude, because I think he'll just do whatever they have for him. And, I mean, he's getting married soon, so maybe he wants to take time off to do that, and he wants to focus on other ventures. I know he has his own radio show. He has a whole bunch of other things. He was recently starring in the Marine 3, which I was actually just watching earlier this morning for the first time. So I guess he could always do acting, maybe not be all that successful at it, but he could always try his hand at acting. There's a bunch of things that The Miz could do. He could be like the Ryan Seacrest of any other show. He's a good host, in my opinion. So he's good in that role. I don't see WWE releasing him, but I think he could definitely be successful outside of WWE. He was with a reality show before he came to WWE, so I think there's 1,000 things that The Miz could do outside of WWE and still be successful at. Now on time for the Twitter questions. At Save Us Hardy asked, who do you think would be a perfect tag team partner for EC3? Now, of course, EC3 has the briefcase for the tag team championship matchup in TNA, the Feast or Fire briefcase, so he's going to have to cash that in at some point. I don't really see him cashing in on the bromance. That'd be kind of weird since they're both kind of heel. But if anything, I think the perfect tag team partner for him, who else than Rockstar Spud? They're both in the coalition with Dixie Carter. They're both in that heel stable, so it makes sense. I mean, they've already tag teamed once before, and they defeated Sting and I think maybe Jeff Hardy a couple weeks ago. So they have the tag team experience to an extent. So I could definitely see Rockstar Spud and EC3 becoming tag team champions sooner rather than later. At Fearless Riot asks, favorite celebrity cameo appearance in any wrestling company? Well, the first one, when you say celebrity appearance, the first thing that comes to mind is the guest host concept on Monday Night Raw, for better or for worse. But as far as that goes, it's really hard to say. I've been only a wrestling fan since April 2008. That's well documented. So the amount of celebrity appearances, there are many. There are quite a few. But the few that come to mind are Hugh Jackman from Monday Night Raw back in September of 2011. I thought that was great. His interaction with Zack Ryder. He was one of my favorite guest hosts. The Muppets, I'm a huge Muppet mark, so I loved when they guest hosted Raw on the Halloween episode back in 2011. As well as Bob Barker in late 2009. I thought that was great as well. He was an awesome host. And those are the very few hosts that actually worked out, because a lot of the other ones kind of flopped, just promoted their movies, and did not give two shits about it at all. But even still, I would have to go with Hugh Jackman, the Muppets, and Bob Barker. There's probably a whole bunch of others too, but for right now, those would be my top three. At Lionheart Phil asked, should the Rhodes brothers title reign end soon? Who should they drop the titles to if they do so? Well, like I've said in past videos, as I said on my show, Wrestle Rant Radio, they should definitely face off in a singles match at WrestleMania 30. Should they do the old Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio thing where they face off as respect, to respect to one another, where they're still the tag team champions, but they're facing off in a singles bout? Or should they drop the tag team titles, Goldust goes heel on Cody like it's been rumored, and then you do it that way? Well, honestly, I think they should drop the tag titles before WrestleMania. Maybe you keep them together, I'm not really sure. I definitely just want to see that match at WrestleMania 30. There's no better stage for it than at the biggest stage of them all. Goldust has said that in the past, and he doesn't want that match to happen anywhere else but WrestleMania, so it needs to happen this year. Who should they drop the titles to? It looks like they might drop the titles to maybe the Wyatt family, which I'd be okay with. Hopefully not Ryback or anything garbage like that. If anything, I would like to see them drop the titles to either the Usos, who have been deserving of a tag team title run for years now, or the Real Americans, who are also very entertaining as a tag team. So either of those two tag teams, and I do think they'll drop the titles either at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view or shortly beforehand. At JJF Tweets asks, thoughts on NXT's resident big man Colin Cassidy? I think I'm in the minority here. I'm not a huge Cassidy fan. I see the appeal in him. I thought he was entertaining in the sing-off a couple weeks ago. I'm a bigger fan of Enzo Amore than I am of Colin Cassidy. I honestly could not care less about Colin Cassidy, but I do like him kind of. He's a good big man. He's got talent. He showed some decent in-ring skills against that match against Aiden English from last week on NXT. So he's got some potential. I'm just not as high on him as most other people are. But he is a fine talent, though. I'm just not a big fan. At TJ the B70 asks, what WWE superstar or divas do you think will be future endeavored in 2014? Well, that's also I hate to kind of hate that. I kind of hate to answer that question because it always bothers me to say, oh, who's going to get fired this year? Who's going to be without a job? I always see people writing those kind of articles like saying, oh, these people are going to be fired this year. I hate to see anyone fired or anyone out of a job. But you got to think JTG's been here since 2006. So if this isn't the year that he gets released, I don't know when it will be. David Otunga, he's never on TV. He hasn't been on TV for about a year now. And he's still with the company after the Call movie, and he hasn't done anything, so he's been riding off of that for the last year. So maybe David Otunga. Who else aren't they using? Evan Bourne, he's been here for 2 years, and they still aren't using him. I guess he's ready to return to the ring, but this guy's been here for 2 years. He's been out of the ring for 2 years, so maybe you get rid of him. I'm not really sure. Divas, I would say Oksana, but she's recently getting pushed. So I don't know. Caitlyn just recently left, and she was in the Divas title hunt 6 months ago. So it's really hard to say who's going to be released in 2014, but I guess I would have to say JTG and maybe David Otunga. At 2000 Awesome asked, this is the final question, thoughts on WWE wanting to unify the US and IC titles? Do you think it's a good idea or bad idea? This is obviously stemming off a report that recently circulated online, saying that WWE was planning to unify the IC and US championships at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. I'm all for it. At one point I wasn't. But with the tag team titles, the Divas titles, the world titles now unified, it only makes sense to unify the mid-card titles. The US title hasn't been treated as anything prestigious in a long, long time. I like Dean Ambrose, but he hasn't defended the title in over 3 months. So there's really no point to him holding the championship. So, yes, unify the titles at Elimination Chamber. Whoever wins, Biggie, Langston, Ambrose, I would presume Langston, but I guess it really doesn't matter because, like I said before, Ambrose is cool too. But as long as they had Ambrose defend the championship if you were to actually win it. So that does it for this week's question, guys. I appreciate you guys sending in all the questions. It always means a lot. So keep on sending them in through Facebook by liking my official Facebook page at Graham Jason Matthews and dropping a comment on the wall, or tweeting me on Twitter at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. So that's going to do it all for this week, guys. Once again, thanks for sending in the questions. Really do appreciate it. We'll see you right here on hashtag AskGSM right next week. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time.